Hello, everyone. Welcome to the next episode of Next Man Up, where we have average guys taking their average takes on all professional sports. I'm your host, Matthew Russo. Today, I'm here with Tom, Nick, and Connor, and we are going to dive into the NFL, but we're not going to talk about the tirade that is Tom Brady and the Bucs going to the Super Bowl, or Pat Mahomes going back to the Super Bowl. I'm sure you'll get all that coverage thrown at you for the next 2 weeks, so we're not going to do that. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about how we have some people's careers ending potentially, some quarterbacks that are moving. And as of today, DeShaun Watson has officially asked for a trade from the Houston Texans. So at this moment, it's a matter of where he will end up. So we're going to dive into potential quarterbacks who might be on the move and where we are going to predict they end up before anything happens. So, boys, I'll open the floor up. Like I said, DeShaun Watson announced he wants to be traded officially today. He has told the Texans front office that it is no longer for them. Where does DeShaun Watson end up next season?
Well, for two people in this podcast, it could be a very good day soon. For Matt and myself, the top two suitors, according to a lot of different sources, are the Dolphins and the New York Jets. Personally, I think that if I was DeShaun Watson, I would want to be going to the Dolphins because, simply put, they are in a more win-ready position, both on offense and defense. Although, if you went to the Jets, I think it would be a good way to show that he could be a like that kind of franchise quarterback that you build around, and then you really build from the ground up and win some championships. I think he definitely has the talent. So,
Nick, it's not an argument that Sam Darnold is kaput, right? If you have a shot at DeShaun Watson, like there's no let's not build around. Let's take Sam Darnold over DeShaun, right? Just so we're clear.
If they trade for DeShaun Watson, it is
no, but I'm saying if they have an opportunity, it's you don't decline that opportunity to build around Darnold, right? You take Watson.
No, of course you have a QB competition, but simply put, DeShaun Watson's going to win that QB competition, and probably you'd be better off trading Darnold at that point.
Wait, so
still say could build around Darnold.
So you think the trade wouldn't involve giving back Sam Darnold if it were to happen?
I guess
I'm telling you, that's exactly what would happen.
Probably. I guess in the same way that if the Dolphins traded for him, it would be giving up Tua. So I assume probably yes. I guess in that light, I would be surprised if not. But
so that's what I'm saying. If you have a shot, here's the offer: DeShaun Watson's yours, Sam Darnold, and whatever else. But if you give up your quarterback now and whatever else they want, are you taking DeShaun Watson, or are you saying, you know what, that's a little too much, we're going to build around Sam, we think we have a future?
All right, so the price for DeShaun Watson, personally, I know is going to be very high. It's going to involve Sam Darnold, and it's probably going to involve draft picks that the Jets have accumulated, and maybe even other potential players. So I still stand. I'm still of the mind that Sam Darnold could be built around, but for me as a fan, or just giving my perspective, it would kind of be idiotic to say I'm going to deny myself of DeShaun Watson despite the price, because he's DeShaun Watson. So I don't want to be laughed off of the show. So I'd have to say yes. I'm going to have to say I want DeShaun Watson over Sam Darnold, but I still think that you can build around Sam Darnold and use the pieces, both draft capital and any potential signings that the Jets can make moves for. But I can't of sound mind say I would deny myself of DeShaun Watson if I'm the New York Jets. So
yeah, I mean, as a Dolphins fan, every day I'm trying to see if there's an update on where this guy's going, because if he wants to win now, and the Texans need a offer from a team that has draft capital and other assets, the Dolphins are a perfect fit for both what the Texans front office would want in return and what DeShaun Watson wants in his exit out of Houston. So every day I'm trying to see if there's a new thing out there. Do I think he's going to be a Dolphin? No. Would I love to see it? Absolutely. You go get DeShaun Watson no matter what. The defense is already there. They're a top 5 defense in the conference easily. The running game is only going to get better. Their wide receiving core, as bad as it is, they have Parker, who's going to get better. Gesicki, another year under his belt, he's going to be good too. If they go into the draft and they get another wide receiver, if they go into the draft and get another offensive lineman or a linebacker per se, I think it makes sense for every party for the Dolphins to land Watson. Would I be happy about it? Of course. He's a stud already, and that means we'd start contending for the division, and we would possibly contend for a big playoff potential. So, Connor, you're saying to Tom, what did you say? I don't even know. You want to explain that real quick, please?
To the tomb, baby. Go to the tomb.
Tua to the tomb, Tua to the grave, essentially.
Oh,
His career's over.
Okay, yeah. Well, if he gets traded to Houston, we'll see. But yeah, I mean, like it all depends on. I really don't know. I did like. Is he going to go? Are the Dolphins going to even want to do the asking price? Or are they just going to say we have enough capital to try and build around what already is a younger team? Are they going to trade for him? Are the Jets going to get him and he's going to go secure the sponsorship bag over in New York? I mean, I really don't know. It's up in the air, but it doesn't seem like any other team besides the two in the AFC East really have much of a shot to get Watson, unless there's some team out there that he really, really wants to go to for some reason, one or the other. But let's move on from Watson. Matt Stafford and the front office of the Detroit Lions have agreed to mutually part ways. They have started to seek out trade suitors for Stafford. Guys, where do you think Matt Stafford fits if his future is no longer in Detroit?
To the Colts, baby. Matt Stafford to the Colts. If the Colts want a serious chance of being a threatening football team, you sign this man right now. He is so underrated. He has a hell of an arm. He's great throwing short. He can make the medium passes. He's been in the league for a while. He threw the Jumbotron for a long time, Megatron, whatever his nickname was. And I think that if the Colts is the best system for him, because he's looking to win now, right? Let's be honest. He's done with the rebuilding thing. He's not looking to go in and try and fix the Patriots. Obviously we'll talk about some other quarterbacks too that could be potentially departing. But Stafford, the Colts are a team that's ready to compete now. They have a great defense. They have a good 1-2 running back duo. And I think Pascal and Ty are very solid receivers to throw to. Ty's displayed in the past that he can be a top receiver in this league. I think Matt Stafford should be going there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say I'm gonna go back to the DeShaun Watson and the Jets rumor real quick. What I think is gonna happen is the Jets have a high pick. I think they're gonna trade for the Jets' number 2 pick. I think and they're gonna trade DeShaun Watson for that pick, and the Jets are going to take Zach Wilson from BYU. So I don't think they're gonna give up. They might get Donald, they might not, but I think they're going to take a quarterback in this draft. They're going to try to get the number 2 pick out of the Jets.
Oh, so you think it's so instead of taking Sam, you think it's more of they're going to package that's number 2 and a whole bunch of other picks, because it's not just going to be the number 2. It's going to be more.
Yeah.
So a pick.
It's going to be a combination of something with that number 2 pick.
Or maybe they give him a defensive guy or something. Who knows? But
I don't know. But so I think that's what's going to happen.
So you think they're drafting QB this year?
Yeah, I think they're going to trade up and they're
not looking for an already pro, not already okay. That's
yeah.
Yeah. So to go back to Stafford, Tom, I agree. It makes sense for him to go to Indianapolis and honestly nowhere else, because Indy doesn't have a lot of trade capital, but considering that Detroit is already agreed with Matt Stafford to mutually part ways, they're not going to be asking for a whole lot. He's of older age, so he's in a win now mentality. And you saw what happened when he had a team around him. He went to the playoffs. And he was phenomenal. Like he was a good quarterback, a solid QB when he has the system around him. The Colts already have the defense around him, and they already have seasoned weapons in Ty. Zach Pascal's not too bad. Their running game picked up immensely because their offensive line is fantastic. Matt Stafford to the Colts, I think, is the only logical thing that makes sense. I don't see why he'd want to go anywhere else. It leads to another quarterback that could want to end up in Indy, who's not a tradable asset, who you could just sign, Cam Newton. Guys, does Cam Newton go back to New England? Does he sign with Indianapolis so they don't have to give up any capital, because Indy doesn't have a lot of capital? So maybe they take on Newton for a cheap 1-year deal to try and win with him. But where's Cam Newton going, or is he even going to get signed anywhere?
He's going to stay right in New England, because we watched him play last year. You know, he still is threatening running the football, doing QB sneaks and everything. He's massive. He's 6'5", so you can do a lot with him. The problem is, ever since his shoulder injury, and before that, Cam Newton didn't have the greatest throwing mechanics to begin with. Ever since his holding with his shoulder, he's been banged up the last couple of years with injuries. He's lost his mechanics of throwing the football. And we saw that last year, right? The pass didn't even trust the guy to throw the football. He only threw like 5 touchdown passes, which is really, really bad for his starting quarterback. Like that's atrocious. But on top of that, he also honestly doesn't have a lot to work with receiver-wise over in New England. But I think the only team that would be remotely interested in him after watching that last year is the Patriots, because at this point, I don't know what other option the Pats have as a quarterback. And honestly, Cam Newton already knows the system. Like we just talked about, he's not a quarterback that at this point in time requires to pay him like a ton of money. And I think after watching last year, I don't think any NFL teams are remotely interested in Cam Newton, especially with all the talent that's come into the league and how quarterbacks are playing now.
Yeah. I originally was going to say potentially Cam Newton to Indy, but after listening to you guys, now I do think there is some merit in the Cam Newton to Indy idea, but logically, the most logical answer is Matt Stafford to Indianapolis. There's no quarterback I like more after Phillip Rivers than Matt Stafford because of how wronged he's been in this league by staying with Detroit for as long as he's been, because he is very underrated and he's easily one of the most talented quarterbacks out there, and he does not get the same recognition. He does stuff that Pat Mahomes does, and no one freaks out about it, and that's a fact. I always think about that video where he literally had his shoulder popped out, still went in, played, and won the game.
Yeah, I remember watching that.
I digress, though. The thing about Cam Newton going back to New England makes a lot of sense because, as Tom said, he's already versatile on the ground. And if you actually maybe can get some guys that are above the tier of receivers that he already has right now, you'll actually be able to trust him to throw the football to some more talent out there. But I agree, there's not really a lot of people that are going to be interested in him. However many throwing touchdowns he had, not very good. It's not very good. And I also think that the Patriots underperformed due to a lot of COVID opt-outs when usually their defense is one of their stronger components anyway, because their offense is always run by Tom Brady. So I think the Patriots, as long as they have the defense come back in the way that they have in the past with most of those players, they're actually probably going to perform better. And I don't know, maybe make Cam Newton look better.
All right, so let me pull a little devil's advocate here, because I think this could very well swap the other way, as likely as it could go the logical way, as everyone's saying. Here's why. When Bill Belichick was winning games in New England, he had Tom Brady, who was probably going to end up the greatest quarterback of all time, but he had a guy who could throw the football, right? He had a guy who could actually complete passes. Newton really wasn't doing too well, and he had no weapons, but at the same time, Brady really didn't have weapons. He was still managing to do that. Like, yes, Tom Brady's great, but my point is Matt Stafford can throw the football better than Cam Newton can. And if they can get a 1-2 punch run game like they sometimes could at points, and you throw Matt Stafford in New England in a system that Tom Brady was in, and then that defense comes back from opting out of COVID, Matt Stafford might say, I want to go with the greatest coach ever and go to New England and go there. And in terms of Indianapolis, maybe they're thinking, we can't trade for Matt Stafford. We have no capital. Maybe we go after a guy like Cam Newton, who's more of a running quarterback and can maybe complete a pass 1 or 2 times, because how did it end up with Phillip Rivers? They didn't get past the Bills, and they had a guy like Matt Stafford and Phillip Rivers, a guy who can complete passes, dink and dunk, whatever, that can throw the football decently. So maybe they go a different direction and shake it up. But it's going to be interesting. Do you guys think that it could flip around like that, or do you think it's going to be?
The only thing I have to say to that is, I mean, I don't like Tom Brady, but I think you dissed him worse than I ever have by saying he probably will end up as the best quarterback.
Oh, who cares? His career's not over. I'm not ending it. His career's not over.
Wait. The point I'm trying to make is Tom Brady
it's not a diss.
is in a different level than Matt Stafford. And maybe that's situational because of the different systems they've been in, different teams, different coaching staffs. But I don't know if Matt Stafford has the same ability as Tom Brady to make other guys around him better, like in the way that the Patriots have a deficiency at wide receiver. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't necessarily disagree wholeheartedly. I just don't know if that, if Matt Stafford's actually going to be able to bring that kind of, I guess, level of play with the talent that the Patriots have right now.
Oh, I didn't mean to say Matt Stafford's as good as Tom Brady. It's not even close. But what I am saying is that Bill Belichick uses a system where a quarterback can complete passes. Cam Newton can't do that. So maybe they don't want to go back to Cam after seeing 1 year of him. To Tom's point, he said it's probably New England or no one for Cam. So maybe Bill Belichick says, you know what? I don't like the fact that this guy can't complete throws that I used to be able to see completed. I think Matt Stafford could be a guy that will probably complete more throws than Newton does. But it's going to be interesting.
Tom looks like he wants to say something. He looks
he looks like he wants.
Yeah. Well, before we continue the conversation, I have a couple of people I want to comment quick about greatest quarterback of all time. So I'm going to let them
sure.
for more guest feature.
Yep.
Kylie Hallett.
I think Tom Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time because he looked really good in Uggs.
Okay.
And then I think Lisa, you're making one more comment.
Yeah, Brady, Tom, also is a favorite of mine. He's married to Giselle. How can you argue with that? Also, great player, right? Isn't that important?
Of course.
Also, shout out. Let Tom. You want to shout out the Lisa's podcast real quick? Considering you're with her right now.
Yes, we have. So speaking of podcasts, our inspirations over here, Lisa Rosenberg, Allison Isola have a great podcast. Girls Next Door. You guys should definitely tune in. Spotify and SoundCloud, right, Lisa? So tune in for it. It is great. Nice. They're fun episodes. Gives you a positive vibe during these negative times. So definitely chime in. But back to the show. So I think honestly, I think you guys made great points here. Because I think Matt and Nick, I think we've led into another conversation. I think Matt Ryan is someone who is questionable about his future. I think Matt Ryan wouldn't be a horrible solution to put in New England either.
Another option. He is still under the contract with Atlanta. But the coach did say that he's going to evaluate every player on a clean slate. So he's not going to think about Matt Ryan having that MVP season and going to Super Bowls and whatnot. Same thing with Julio Jones, even though I think that's blasphemous, but that he's going to go with a clean slate on everyone. So maybe he thinks, Matt Ryan's not the guy. Let's move him. Let's try and get something for him. I honestly think they're going to be stuck with him just because he's got so much money. But if Belichick would say I want Matt Ryan, I don't think the GM's going to be like, you're wrong. He's got six. Like, what are you going to say? It's Bill Belichick. If he wants Matt Ryan, they're going to be like, okay, let's go get Matt Ryan. Like, it's
absolutely.
Not
I really think New England needs a quarterback that I think has those throwing mechanics and is a pocket passer, because it's obviously been the past way of playing offense. As we've seen, Tom Brady was there for 20 years, is what he did best. But New England really needs a dominant receiver. I think before they can even worry about getting a quarterback, that no quarterback's going to go into New England and want to throw it to those pieces that they have there. I mean, Edelman, like, in my opinion, like, he's good, but he's not an elite wide receiver. I don't think he's an all-star, Pro Bowl material at all. I really think he's like a number 2 for you. I think they really got to go out and get someone else. Whether it's drafting, because New England has not drafted a good wide receiver in a very long time. I think if you're going to bring in a quarterback, you got to give him something to work with and make it more appealing to go there. That's why I think Cam Newton's going to stay, because they have no one else looking to go there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty solid to say that Cam doesn't really have any suitors. Unless Indy just wants to give him a chance because they can't afford to trade for anything, because they don't really have anything. I was looking at what they could possibly trade. It's not much. I think they have their pick this year, but it's very low because they made the playoffs. And then they have, I think, a second from this year, and maybe a second from next year that they'd be able to give up, and maybe a player. But they really don't want to part with anyone because they're in like a win now mentality. So. We'll see. It's going to be interesting, but we're going to shift to more guys like Matt Ryan who are still under contract, but no one really knows if they're going to end up retaining the QB job. They might go somewhere else. Carson Wentz, after the Doug Peterson firing, his future still uncertain. He has asked the team for a trade previously, even before the firing. And after the loss to the Bucs, Rodgers really didn't sound too convinced about coming back to Green Bay. So you got two guys here who are not convinced on coming back on huge contracts. Where are those two NFC quarterbacks going, or are they staying?
So I think the biggest thing here is Aaron Rodgers. I feel like, I really think Green Bay is a perfect team for him. The team's built around him. Could they have an extra couple weapons here and there? Absolutely. But the biggest problem with Green Bay is they are not letting Aaron Rodgers control the football games. At this point, in my eyes, Aaron Rodgers is on the same level from an experience perspective, from talent perspective as Tom Brady. Tom Brady's calling plays out there as he sees them. Obviously, there's a play going into it, but you watch Brady, he'll audible, mix it up with the line if he sees something. Aaron Rodgers does that, but I feel like Green Bay just hasn't given him the full run of the playbook yet. And I think we saw in this past game too, they just don't give him enough of a chance to come up in the big moments that they need him. Basically, when you're losing to the Bucs late in the game, you don't take a field goal. On 4th and 7, 4th and 8, you need a touchdown. You give Aaron Rodgers the ball. He's one of the best to play the game. You give him that chance to win you the game. Even if it's a bigger risk, it's not the safety way to go. There's no guarantee that you're getting the ball back, especially with Tom Brady.
Right,
so I think he's
going to tie the game there. So
no, they didn't tie the game.
You had a chance to tie the game there. You
do absolutely.
So, absolutely. How do you not? Yeah. So
I completely agree. So I think the biggest thing there is I think Aaron Rodgers is more frustrated from a calling perspective on the team's ability to let him do what he does best. Carson Wentz, I think this is going to kind of spark some stuff between us here, boys. I still think Carson Wentz is a very talented quarterback. He's shown that he can. Yep. Yeah. There's my hot take. He is a talented quarterback. I think Philly has had very unfortunate couple of seasons since they won that Super Bowl. A lot of ups and downs from coaching, injury, confidence, players going in and out. I think Carson Wentz has looked like he's lost everything. I don't think he has. I think his confidence is shot. He's pressured all the time. His decision making's not there anymore. I think he needs to go to a new team. I don't think he should stay in Philly. I think he needs to go somewhere else to show that he can be what he was back when they won the Super Bowl. He probably arguably would have won MVP that year. I think he had 33 touchdowns and 7 picks before he got hurt, which is phenomenal numbers. And then, he really, biggest thing with him is he's injury prone. I think Philly, they have something with Jalen Hurts that they should run with. I think he's a very talented guy. He's, breath of fresh air for them. He's exciting. He seems to be more confident. Honestly, he's coming out of college. He's excited, looking to make a mark quick. I think Carson Wentz has just been under so much. I feel like just been under so much pressure from a franchise standpoint, a fan standpoint. I think his confidence is shot. I think he really needs a new start to show that he could be a quarterback in this league.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Wentz, I could see him still having a little step or two. I mean, Newton he's not really finished. So I mean, if he's not finished, maybe Wentz isn't finished. In terms of Rodgers, I think I think the front office really needs to sit down with him and they need to say, listen, the way things ended this year, we're going to make sure that it doesn't happen anymore. We'll give you a little bit more reins of the offense. We're going to let you have more control. They need to do that. If they don't, I don't know how much longer he wants to be there. I mean, I could see him saying he wants to get traded mid-season if he's let's say they're doing the same old BS and they're under 500 in like week 8. He's going to be like, I can't do this anymore. He could say mid-season that he wanted to be traded. Like it's so they really got to sit him down and explain to him that they need. They got to give him more of the reins, and hopefully they come to a consensus that they should have a reunion for one more year. Wentz, I think he does need a fresh start somewhere else. We'll move on to the less tier quarterbacks. Jameis Winston has no contract. He needs to be re-signed, I believe. And the only two destinations I saw were the Saints and I think Green Bay as a backup. But, I mean, I don't really see much else for him there. Nick, Sam Darnold is he starting for the Jets? Yes or no? Let's just say that he's not involved in the DeShaun Watson trade somehow, some way. Is he starting next year?
If they get DeShaun Watson?
Yeah, you brought up the QB competition. Is he going to start?
No, it's a QB competition with big quotation marks, but it's very clear he would not be starting.
All right, I'm just making sure.
No, at that point, at that point, you might as well find someone to. Listen, I will repeatedly say I support Sam Darnold being the cornerstone to build around. I think he still has talent and the ability to be a competitive starting quarterback. But if you get DeShaun Watson, yeah, QB competition with grain of salt, you take that as, and you find someone to trade with to get other pieces. You find someone to get a wide receiver or draft picks or alignment. I don't know, anything that the Jets need, because the Jets need everything. No, of course not. Darnold's not starting at all.
It's going to be interesting to see what happens with DeShaun, because he's going to actually he's going to set up basically the offseason for every other quarterback whose job is in question. But that'll do it for this episode of Next Man Up. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at NextManUp05. Make sure to go get SportsMe. Download SportsMe. Great app. Follow us at Next Man Up Sports Podcast on SportsMe. If you want to hear our voices and just our voices, go to our Anchor. We have Spotify there and all the other links to podcast sites. And we have a YouTube as well if you want to hear our voices and our faces. Nick, hit us with the like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. I can't even keep it straight. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in. Have a good one.